Hello, thanks for coming to Rough Trade to celebrate the launch of Dorothy Max Prire's I Confess single being re-released, and it was released in 1980, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, a wee while ago. So my name's Graham Duff, and I'm just going to chat to Dorothy, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A if anybody's got any questions, and then you're going to sign some records if people want to buy them. Cool. Okay.
I've even got my own pens.
Got your own pens?
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to take no time at all.
I've got pink purple Sharpies and everything.
Nice one. So, I'm thinking music was really important to you from when you were quite young, wasn't it?
Yeah, all the usual stuff, you know, Beatles, Monkeys, all that sort of thing. My dad had a friend who was an A&R person at Decca, so he did also have things like Moody Blues and Rolling Stones and whatever.
All right, so you get like fresh...
Just get loads of
loads
of records, yeah.
That must have been a dream come true.
Yeah, the first one I actually bought for myself, you know, rather than things that were given to me, was David Bowie, predictably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which Bowie one was it?
It was Aladdin Sane was the first album that I bought. Yeah, I mean I bought singles before that. I bought things like T-Rex, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, glam rock.
Of course.
Yeah, I feel funny. I'm going to stand up. Sorry. Can
I sit down?
I'm going to stand up.
Okay, we're at the bar.
That's better. God, that felt a bit odd. Yeah, yeah.
Because you later, many years later, you did an installation, didn't you, of your childhood bedroom? Is that right?
It wasn't childhood. It was kind of a coming of age thing.
Yeah.
And it was actually based on the room that I shared with Andy Warren at 69 Exhibition Road.
Right.
So I was kind of researching to write a memoir, which I've now written, and to do the installation at the same time. So those two things went hand in hand. So it was kind of, and it was full of real things, actual clothes that I still had, and books and records and things like that, and loads of flowers on the walls and things. Yeah.
So did you consciously sort of keep hold of everything as you grew up?
Well, what happened was that I lived with Andy for 5 years, just around the corner there in Exhibition Road.
So this is Andy Warren, who
Andy
was
Warren, bass player in the Ants, and then Monochrome Set, and he's still with Monochrome Set now. And when we left Exhibition Road, all of the staff went to Andy's mum's house in Balham. And that's where it stayed.
Oh right.
Yeah, yeah. So I got Andy to go back to his old family house and dig out all the old things for this installation. Also research for the memoir. Yeah.
So did you, when you were in your teens, were you drawn to the music world? Was that always something that you felt you were going to be involved in?
Not as a musician. I'm not a musician anyway, I'm a drummer. Old joke. No, I didn't play musical instruments no, I mean I was a dancer, that was my main thing. So I did dance classes and war dance classes and, you know, presumed that that's what I would do. And I also really liked writing a lot. So, you know, age 6 I wanted to be a dancer or a writer. That's basically what I've ended up doing most of my life. The drumming was a sort of little interim, but I see it's related to the dancing. I mean, it's you know, all about kind of percussion and rhythm and things. So no, I didn't kind of have any thought, and I can't sing, despite having made a record to singing. But you know, I was always told that I could dance and I can't sing. So you know, that was the what was the kind of mantra of my childhood. So I might have had fantasies, you know, about forming a pop group or something, but I never really felt that I had any talent to do that.
Yeah, but then, you know, as somebody who couldn't sing and couldn't really play an instrument, you were perfect for punk, weren't you, in a way? Or the original vision of punk, shall we say?
Well, I just happened to be going down to the basement of 69 Exhibition Road, into the days when people not only didn't have mobiles, they didn't have landlines. So you know, there was a communal phone down in the basement.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 21. Yeah, just 21. And I met these two boys in the basement, very young. And one was Andy and one was Bid. You know, they're both now in the Monochrome Set. And they just kind of asked me really politely, you know, if I happened to know somebody called Monica, and Monica was the person whose room I was sleeping in. And so I came upstairs, had a cup of tea, and it turns out they had a band, which was very sort of Velvets influenced. And they just asked if I'd like to be the drummer. So I just said, oh, I don't know how to play drums, and I don't have a drum kit, you know. And they were like, so that was, yeah, they found a drum kit for me, decided that I was going to be the drummer, decided my name was going to be Max. That's it.
And you went along with all that. That was fun.
I didn't have any choice, really. I suppose I did have a choice. I mean, I suppose I could have just said no, I couldn't do any of that, but I was quite kind of bemused and amused, I suppose.
So what was your first rehearsal like then, when you presented, like, here's your drum kit? How did you feel?
Well, I was wearing these really high stilettos at the time.
That must have helped, yeah.
Yeah, and so I sat down. So Bid and Andy started playing Louie Louie on bass, and so Bid sat down behind this little drum kit, which was a very nice Pearl Maxwin, you know, like really lovely little, proper small kit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bid sits down and he shows me how to do this, you know, and then he shows me with the hi-hat, you know, right, that, just do that. So I started doing that, and it was just like really confusing with high stilettos on, with like a hi-hat and the floor.
Yeah.
So the bass drum, so I just thought I don't really like the sound of this anyway. It doesn't sound right. So I just got rid of the hi-hat, and I just thought, oh, I'll just get rid of that for now.
Yeah.
But the for now became forever, really.
Right.
Yeah, so I just sort of took to, you know, floor tom and doing like boom 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 boom. Oh, that sounds better. I'll stick to that. You know.
And they went along with. They were fine with that.
Yeah, they were fine with that. I mean, I think the reason they asked me is they were very Velvets influenced, and I think they liked the idea of a female drummer, you know, with a single syllable name beginning with M. You know, I think that's how it happened, really. So so that was the band that. Oh, and then the band had two singers, so it had Bid, and then so I did a few rehearsals with them, and then this other person who'd been in some sort of mysterious thing that happened to them. Turns out he'd been in hospital, but anyway, but we were never really told at the time. You know, it was just Stuart's. You know, Stuart can't make it. So then this person called Stuart turns up. He's a very sort of shy boy with with glasses and, you know, a sort of check lumberjack shirt and things like that. And he's also a singer-songwriter. So we've now got kind of two of them in the room, and his songs are really different.
Yeah.
So he's got a song called Dirk Wears White Socks. And at the time, this was actually before I got the drum kit. At the time, I didn't have the drum kit, and so we were just kind of, everybody was trying to start the song, and couldn't actually all come in at the same time. So I said, I know what I'll do. I'll shout out, Dirk wears white socks, and then you all come in together.
Yeah.
So that's what they did, and then Adam, as he then became called, said, oh, I really like that, so whenever we do that song, we're going to do it that way, shouting out Dirk Wears White Socks at the beginning. So that bedroom band with the two singers sort of split into two bands. So it became the Ants and the Monochrome set. Yeah, eventually.
It's interesting you're saying about Stuart Goddard, isn't it? Bit being very shy to begin with, because when you see him in Jubilee, he seems almost embarrassed to be on the screen. He seems so shy, which is bizarre when you consider what a showman he became later on.
He decided quite consciously around that time that he was going to remake himself as a sex symbol.
Right.
And he used to phone me up and say, I'm going to change my name. What do you think of the name Adam? You know, I'm going to be like Adam because I'm going to be like the firstborn man, and I'm going to completely remake and remodel myself, and I'm just going to wow the world, and I'm just going to have stadiums full of little girls just wetting themselves with excitement. And I'm just like going, really, Stuart? Really? You think so?
So was this about 76, 77?
This is 76, yeah 76. 76, it was kind of the winter of 76 into 77 that this band with no name that that became these two bands was
Yeah.
sort of coming and going in various formations, and Adam, we know now that, I mean, we're much more aware of sort of mental health stuff. We know now that he has bipolar,
Yeah.
and at the time, what was happening is he was going in and out of hospital, but, and he had teenage anorexia as well. It's very unusual in boys, but. Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff going on, but at the time it was just like, oh, where's he gone? Oh, he's gone again.
Yes, yeah. So you saw the Sex Pistols as well, didn't you, during this period?
Yeah, I saw them first at the Babaloo Club in Finchley Road, which is just a sort of suburban disco. That was funny because there's only about 10 people in the audience.
Did it feel significant for you then? I mean, except we look back now and it all seems like, it's all been
weird,
mapped
isn't it?
out, that it was all really significant. But did it feel throwaway at the time, or was there some gravity?
You mean the Sex Pistols or just all of it?
Well, that's two questions, probably both questions, really. Yeah. I mean, the Sex Pistols obviously gave a permission slip to so many of the bands and musicians to do what they did. So I suppose them first. How did that feel?
Them first. Well, I went along with somebody called Ted Polhemus, who some people know of as a sort of author and curator of exhibitions, Supermarket of Style and all the rest of it. And he had this friend called Malcolm, had this shop and had put this band together. And the way Ted presented it to me was that this isn't a proper band, it's an art project of Malcolm's. And so I was already kind of had been invited to view it, I suppose, as an art event or some sort of happening.
Framed differently to
it
just
was
a
framed
rock
differently
gig.
to let's go to this gig.
Yeah.
And there were very, very few people there, and other than the so-called Bromley contingent who were the mates of the band. I mean, there was only like 6 or 7 other people there who obviously all hated it and were shouting a lot. And so Johnny Rotten just just got off the stage and went over to them, and just dealt with them directly. I mean, not violently, not hurting them or anything, but just with that glare of his.
Confronting them, yeah.
He just went over, and maybe just sang straight at them about 2 inches away from their face or something. Yeah. So it was a piece of performance art, Yeah. But I did actually like it musically, funnily enough. I mean, despite everything Ted had said, I was actually I thought, I'm quite interested in this, I quite like what they're doing. Yeah.
And presumably you would have been aware of things like the Stooges and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which were like a big influence on
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Sex Pistols, as I say, was sort of catalysed for a lot of people, but it was like a generation or a subculture of a generation that was ready for that change, wasn't there, in terms of like, queer culture and so on. It sort of coalesced, didn't it, at that point?
Yes, I mean, Peter York coined that phrase, or that word, them, that because it was the cult with no name, there wasn't a word for all these different disparate things that were kind of happening all over the place. I mean, particularly in London. I suppose I knew more about London than anything that was going on everywhere else, but there was definitely something that was happening, and we knew things were happening in New York. We were getting kind of messages from afar, so there was an awareness that there was something happening, and it was something that mixed a type of music that had something in common with, I don't know, things like the sort of 13th Floor Elevators or Stooges, or there was this sort of return to sort of short, sharp songs. But then there was also the thing like that Patti Smith was doing. I mean, she was a really, really big influence and catalyst.
Yes.
I think there's, it's that old thing about hardly anyone bought the first Velvet Underground album. Everyone that did, formed a band.
Yes, yeah.
I similarly say that I don't know how many people went to Patti Smith at the Roundhouse in May 1976, but certainly all the women that were there, I think then went on to be in bands, or to become poets, or to become, writers or whatever. Yeah, so she was a massive influence. So yeah, there was definitely a feeling that there was something happening. But yeah, when you're like 20 or 21, you don't really, go, oh, I'm part of a moment and it's happening. It's just. Yeah.
We're all too self-obsessed when we're that age anyway, aren't we, to sort of think in terms of movements.
Yeah.
So was this around the same time that you started working as a dancer and a stripper? So was that slightly later?
No, it's the same time,
Yeah.
and that was Ted as well. That was through Ted's influence.
Yeah.
Ted and Lynn, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the sort of performance you do would be in pubs, wouldn't it? Sort of.
It was, because I did do clubs, but it was horrible, you know, and there was a sort of expectation that you kind of dressed and behaved in a certain way, and I didn't like that at all. So
Yeah.
the thing about pubs is you could just play it as a kind of game, you know. You could wear anything you wanted, you could do anything you wanted, bring your own music, you know, and make it into a performance, you know.
So what did you dance to? What were your tunes of choice?
Lola, The Kinks, Next, Alex Harvey, Venus in Furs, Walk on the Wild Side, Jane B by Jane Birkin. Yeah.
And would you describe it as largely a positive experience?
Oh, I had a great time. Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
just. I mean, I could earn, you know, week's rent in a lunchtime in an East End pub.
Yeah.
You know.
So is this like one of the things where they go around with the pint pot at the end and people just like put money in?
Yeah. You know, it was all. I mean, and it was very sort of burlesque-y, you know.
Yeah.
Very tame compared to what came after.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that how you met Cozy, or did you meet Cozy through the ICA?
I met Cozy at the ICA, yeah, because I was working at the ICA, you know, because like a lot of people had about 10 different jobs.
So what was your job at the ICA?
I just did anything that anybody wanted me to, in the days when you could, before, you know, you didn't need a kind of degree in, I don't know, arts management or, you know, curation or whatever, to just be let loose on things. So I actually met Ted's wife Lynn. I just went into the ICA just to, you know, look around at an exhibition and get a coffee, and I just came across Lynn looking absolutely magnificent, sort of skin tight PVC trousers and high heels and bleached blonde hair, standing on a table sort of tacking things up, and so I thought, oh, she's nice. Yeah, I just ended up helping her that afternoon, and then she invited me round to dinner, and I met Ted that evening, and they both, like Ted did the kind of fashion forum thing that Malcolm and Vivian did, the sex shop, and also Swanky Modes sort of early in '76, so, you know, the ICA at the time, so there was all these kind of things happening there. The theatre was full of really exciting things, like kind of People Show, Lumiere and Son, Hot Peaches over from New York. And the person that ran the theatre was Mike Lay, who sadly recently died, but he became a very well-known rock photographer. But Mike just decided that we might as well use the space in the theatre after hours to put shows on, gigs. Yeah. So we'd have these really interesting experimental theatre performances, and then afterwards we'd just have the Clash, Subway Sect or whatever playing, you know. And so and then Ted curated a fantastic film festival, ethnographic film festival, that had sort of some of the first time that some people like the other Mike Lee's films were shown, and and then Ted Little, who was sort of person in charge for the whole place. It was just encouraging us all to just put stuff on, really. Yeah. You know, and as I say, it didn't really. Sometimes I'd work in the theatre, sometimes I'd work in the cinema, you know, or help put up exhibitions. So then we had this exhibition called Prostitution, and that's when I met Jen and Cozy. I was just sort of, I don't know what I was supposed to be doing that night, just being somebody meeting the press or meeting the public or meeting somebody rather. But I remember walking around the exhibition with Jen and Cozy, and they were sort of talking me through all the exhibits. Yeah.
Were you surprised by how it got swept up into this sort of tabloid tumult?
We loved it.
I bet you did.
We loved it.
But were you surprised? Did you
hilarious.
think, when you saw things like the used tampons and so on in the exhibitions, did you think this is going to upset people?
I think until something does make the front page of the Daily Mirror, you don't expect it to. You just think it's going to somehow, you know, not be. You just think a certain sort of type of person, if you want to put it that way, is just not going to be interested. I mean, I suppose I just kind of thought, oh, well, nobody's really. Why would anybody take any notice of us? You know, putting on these people like the Clash late night, or putting on exhibitions like Prostitution. You know, it's all in this kind of contained little bubble of art and alternative culture and counterculture. But then sometimes that kind of counterculture, you know, explodes up and out, and that was one occasion.
It's not somebody calling me, that's just a reminder of how much time we've got. So, yeah, okay. So
Yeah,
still
yeah.
to talk about. So,
Yeah.
so through them, obviously, you became involved in industrial records, and certainly you were there at the time.
Just
they were
became a
doing-
friend first of
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Became a friend and just started going around to Beck Road a lot, and yeah, just then it became very clear that Thrum and Gristle that it was going to end
Yes.
soon.
largely because of Jen and Cozy sort of separating.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the seeds of it, was it?
Yeah, and this is all very difficult to talk about because there's completely different accounts of what was happening at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to endorse either of them because I didn't really get any sort of sense of anything untoward, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is not from a denying. I'm not saying that things
No.
didn't happen. I'm just saying.
But if
that
you don't witness it, you don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
And I did spend more time with Jen than with Cozy, so I suppose I was a kind of bit of a shoulder to cry on and that sort of thing. So with TG, very obviously starting to wind down, although it would take another year or two.
Yeah.
It just got to a point where, and then Alex Ferguson from ATV was hanging around there a lot, and me and Alex and Jen I don't know, how do these things start as a joke, do they? Or, we started talking about forming a band.
Yeah.
So we were going to form a band, and then there was suddenly this other discussion, which I got a bit confused about because I assumed I was being asked to play drums because Jen was always saying how much he liked. You always thought, if I ever have a drummer in a band, it'd be you. I want you to be my drummer.
Because you'd been the drummer with Rima for a couple of years by that stage.
Yeah,
so.
Rima played TG and things. Yeah. So I was assuming that when Jen started talking about this song that he wanted me to do, I was assuming it would be to play drums. It wasn't. He said it was Softness, which he'd written with Alex, and he and we just started. I was saying earlier about Jane Birkin. We just started talking about these kind of soft spoken word female vocals, and how you don't have to be a singer. Like Jane Birkin's not a singer. You can just be someone who talks the lyrics.
Yeah.
And so that's where that idea came from. So we went in to do that song.
And that was going to be the A-side.
That was the
originally?
A-side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is just classic pop story. There had to be a B-side. We're like, what are we going to put on the B-side? Oh, go home and write something. So, and Alex was like, I've got some tunes somewhere. How about this one? And they just went home, and I really like list songs. I've always liked list songs, like Cold Water and everybody really.
I mean, there's a real tradition. I mean, like a lot of Ian Jury's songs are list songs, aren't they? And they really sort of spark people's songs.
Yeah.
I mean, your list, for I Confess, is quite wide-ranging, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff, from Subway Set to Beatle Boots. It's all in there, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was kind of genuine. I mean, I did just sit in my room and go, okay, right, there's Pierre Henry's, Green Mass, and there's something Zydeco, Cajun, something rather, Alan Toussaint, whatever. Oh, and over here there's these, Bond novels, and there's this,
But it's really interesting because you're doing that at a time when the subculture is becoming increasingly sort of splitting into factions. There's Oi and there's this. Whereas what you're doing in I Confess is basically saying there's a whole panorama of things you're coming into. Well, I don't know if you're aware of that at the time, but it's basically sort of being really open, isn't it, in terms of influence?
Yeah, but then I also think that's the difference between the people, the artists, musicians themselves, and how perhaps media and the outside world sort of perceives things to be.
Yeah.
Because actually, I mean, most of the people I knew at the time, were quite kind of broad in tastes and influences and things.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to go down just round the corner there, to the Electric Cinema and just go to see whatever was on, in the afternoons. So it could be Godard, it could be, anything that turned up really. Yeah.
So, and is it true that Jen was keen to put it in as a Eurovision Song Contest?
That was the original conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think he submitted it. Didn't get chosen.
So what was the British entry that year? Can you remember?
I can't remember. actually. I must look it up.
But that's
Yeah.
not being re-released this year.
No. No, what? Oh gosh, I don't know. 1980, or was it a year ahead? I don't know.
Not sure.
I have to look it up one day. Yeah.
But was that a serious intention, do you think, or was that just?
Oh, I
prank?
should imagine it
Wasn't
was.
just
I
a
think
prank,
He,
it was-
no, I think he actually did it. I think he did. I don't even know what the kind of process is for submitting to the Eurovision Song Contest, but you know, Jen. I mean, he's quite serious in that. He's quite serious in things that people think are silly or
Yes. Yeah.
or not serious or whatever. And he does that thing with the eyes, you know.
Mm.
And it's almost like challenge me, you know.
Prove me wrong.
Prove me wrong.
So, I mean, it was just a one-off, wasn't it? Were you not tempted to do more with
I d-
Alex?
Well, okay. So then came the conversation that we'd had. We went back around again to the conversation about me playing drums in a band, and it was going to be me and Alex, possibly Mark Perry as well, Genesis. So that was talked about for a while. I had kind of alarm bells ring. I just felt I don't think it's a good idea. And in fact, that was kind of. I mean, I did join Psychic TV in whenever.
Yeah.
And you know, in a way, my fears were, you know, there was a good grounding. I mean, it's very difficult to be in bands with people that you're very close to.
Yeah.
You know, because of the hierarchy of power,
Yeah.
and Jen has to be in charge. You know. Yeah, so I did kind of feel, no, it's not quite right for me, I'm not going to do this. And so at the time it was kind of, there was these two separate projects, this psychedelic band that would have me, Jen and Alex, and then over here this other project that Jen was going to do with Sleazy, which was called Psychic TV, which was actually going to be a TV station.
Oh, that's right, it was just going to be like an hour
Yeah.
between midnight and 1 in the morning was the
Yeah.
idea, wasn't it? The
Yeah.
broadcast, yes.
Yeah, and then somehow, you know, and I'd stepped back by then, so I didn't really know, but somehow, you don't know quite what happened, but somehow those two ideas, sort of psychedelic bands and the TV show, merged into being
yeah.
Psychic TV. Yeah.
It's interesting
Yeah.
what you're saying about not being friends, because a lot of very successful bands are not friends. We always see them as being like gangs and groups of
Yeah.
friends, but a lot of them are work colleagues essentially,
Yeah.
aren't they? And they tend to be the ones that are more
Yeah,
successful.
I mean, it's a whole other story for another day. But you know, the dream team lineup of Psychic TV, you know, with Hilmar and Monty and
Yes.
me, and that you know, that kind of exploded really badly. I mean, Monty just ran away. You know,
Yeah.
he just said, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not risking everything.
Fair enough.
Basically, yeah, but that is for another time, yeah. But as for singing, I mean, as I say, I'm not really a singer, so I didn't think, oh, I've done one record, or I could do this again. But the only thing was Cherry Red, Mike Allway from Cherry Red was really keen to do another single and possibly an album. So I did have that conversation, and it went on for about, you know, a year or something.
But other things just took precedence. in
Oh
that.
God, yeah. Yeah. So it didn't happen, and it wasn't a, yeah. There was. I didn't feel it was a great loss to me.
I think you're wrong.
I don't know.
I think that might be.
Oh, ding ding.
Yeah, I think that we should probably knock it there. Well, thank you so much. That's
Thank
really,
you.
really fascinating. Thank you.